Welcome back to the Win with Dice podcast, a podcast featuring members of the Win with Dice team. I'm Calvin, and I'm joined here by Ramon.
Hey guys, if this is your first time listening to the Win with Dice podcast, this is a podcast all about tabletop RPGs. This week, we're talking about a bunch of stuff, more of like a guided rambling episode than any specific topic. Lots of cool stuff happened, so we just kind of wanted to jump into it and talk about the cool stuff that we like in the TTRPG space. And hey, if that sounds cool, give us a like, give us a subscribe. We really appreciate it. This podcast is all about tabletop RPG nonsense. Kevin and I take a casual approach to the hobby, so we like to talk about the games that we run, the games that we play, and the cool, wonderful people we get to experience the hobby with. And if you are a player at someone's table, I think if you haven't GM'd before, it's your turn to run a game for your folks.
Indeed. So as Ramon said, in this episode, we're just going to be talking about a bunch of different things, as well as a Daggerheart game that I was a participant in recently. I have some thoughts on the system. I will save them for that section of the episode. I enjoyed the game, and I want to get into more details on it. But before we do that, we have to get to the most important part of the show, the Win with Dice Weekly GM Tip of the Week.
Yes, Win with Dice Weekly GM Tip of the Week, brought to you by me. Yeah, I was kind of thinking about like session prep. Not that I'm like prepping anything. My life's a little bit too hectic right now, but yeah, always, the wheels are turning and things like that. But I was trying to see if there's like advice to anybody kind of touching on new things or trying a new system or trying to jam it the first time. But the question that comes up all the time is like, how much do you prep, right? Like some people prepare a lot, like Calvin here likes to prepare a lot of stuff. While people like me, I do like a good napkin session. So I think it really depends to find your balance of like, what you used to do. But like, I think that like what the real thing you got to do is after the session, whatever you prepared, you have to like re-look through your notes and see what you actually used, because the stuff that you didn't need, then you don't need to prepare for the next one. And if you are missing something, you felt like, hey, I really wish I had this prepared, then do that, right? So then you'll be able to find your own groove of what you actually need to present the game that you want to present and run the way you want to run, because there's no easy cut and dry specific way of running one of these games. It's mostly just coming down to your preference and what your players like and the fun that you want to actually have. That's the tip of the week, is to prepare some stuff, see if it worked, and reiterate on it the next time.
Yeah, nothing's really real until the players see it, is something I like to say. So if you do have something in your notes you didn't get to use, you get a second chance to look at it and apply some context that might have been created within the prior session. Something that was said or improvised, or an idea that you might have had that you can now expand on those future ideas that you already enjoy. It can give you a lot more to work with down the line.
Yeah. And it also, I think the big part of the nerves is, did I prepare enough? Do I have enough? Is to fill the time. But like, that's never true. And you always have enough, and there's never enough time. So just whatever you need to start, you just start, right? And then you'll see what you actually need in the future. There's no way to have the perfect game. That does not exist. You'll have a really good game and you'll have tons of fun. But like, you don't need to prepare for perfectness. You just need to prepare for tonight. Like, that's it.
True. That's really good advice. Yeah, you're never gonna have a perfect game, but you can have a fun game.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's hop into the episode. So yeah, like I said, there's a bunch of stuff that we're gonna talk about this week. First up is just some Paizo news. First, the smaller of the two news items I wanted to cover, because this was mentioned a few weeks ago. But it's very important to me. I feel a need to mention that Paizo's website is going to have an update. They're going to get a redesign. It's going to be a little less, I don't want to say clunky, but I will say that they built that site some time ago. So it's getting reorganized. Thanks, Aaron Ray. It's just, thank Abadar, I should say. But, they're just reorganizing the layout to make it easier to navigate with new sections and filters. The product pages will have previews of the table of contents, which is very useful. Something I always have trouble with is like, I want to know exactly what's in a book before I purchase it. I want to know exactly what tools or details or items it's going to give me. So I want to know that table of contents is very useful to see before I purchase. There are other changes coming, like with Foundry products and the pre-order windows and a bunch of changes like that. So there will be a link to the blog post below with the full details. But the more interesting Paizo news is the Starfinder Afterlight Kickstarter. This is a Starfinder game. Essentially, it's described as Divinity Original Sin meets Guardians of the Galaxy. which is a very cool concept, something I've been wanting since playing Divinity and Baldur's Gate. I've been wanting a sci-fi version of those. The Kickstarter is launched and is running until November 6th. There'll be a link to it in the description, of course, because I want people to check this out, because I want this to succeed. Although, to be fair, it did get fully funded in like a couple hours. So I think they're on the way. I think they're gonna be fine. But I want to hit all the stretch goals, because I want to get all the stuff that we can into this game. It's developed by Epic Tellers, which is a 30-person sized team. It's got basically everything from the player core book, the ancestries and the classes. Of course, the game uses Starfinder's 3-action system. They described it as having a 40 to 60 hour campaign with romances and mod support. The romances being, of course, the key important part of any RPG video game.
For Calvin.
Yes. Yeah, you know it. I'm still not over Garrus.
No one's over Garrus.
That's true. We did see an additional companion revealed in the Kickstarter. I think last episode we had listed the ones that were revealed. We got more information on a Sheeran mystic named Preach and the Larva, which seems to be a Sheeran who carries around a small larva with them, which seems a bit difficult to deal with in combat, but we'll see how that plays out. As mentioned, Neil Newbon is the voice director, and we also saw Carolina Ravassa as Captain Kali, who seems to be some sort of key important NPC, at least according to the trailer. That seems to be the character the game sort of revolves around at the start. There's a bunch of add-ons that you can get if you're interested in that sort of thing. You know, you can like name a character in the game, or you can send a picture of your cat and have your cat in the game. And there's a bunch of stretch goals, like different playable races like the Skittermander and the Patra, more voice work, the Technomancer class. Actually, like an hour or so before we started recording, I saw the news that the Vlaka ancestry is a possible stretch goal in the future after they had reached the Technomancer class. So yeah, I think this game is going to have a whole bunch of Starfinder stuff in it, and I'm very excited for that because I think this game could really lean well into a video game. I don't know that they'll have ship combat. That would be neat.
Yeah, I feel like they could make a game of just that. It would just be like the successor to like FTL or something like that, right? Like they could definitely make an FTL game with just Starfinder rules.
I could see it. Yeah, like, I mean, if this game has Technomancer, then who knows, maybe. Because I think Technomancer's coming out in the same book that the ship rules are coming out in. So, you know, just a hint. Epic Tellers, if you're listening. But yeah, very excited for this game. I'm looking forward to it. There's obviously no release date or anything like that yet, but the Kickstarter is running until November 6th. They've hit every stretch goal that they've published so far, so yeah, I think we're gonna see a lot of success with this Kickstarter. In other stuff going on, this is more, I mean, not really a personal thing, but it's just something I'm super into right now, and it's tabletop related, so I'm going to talk about it. Critical Role has started a new campaign. Ramon, have you watched any, like, Critical Role at all? I'm not sure if you've watched, like, the Vox Machina show, but I don't know if you've seen any of the, like, actual plays.
No, I mean, like, I've seen, like, clips of the Vox Machina show. Like, I know that Matt Mercer and gang are cool, but I've never experienced any of the cool. Like,
that's fair. Yeah, I'll admit, like, I kind of fell off Campaign 3 after a bit. It's not, I don't know, I think, like, there were people who had issues with some parts of that story, but I never got to the point of the things that people were mostly talking about. I just fell behind 1 week, and then, you know, they put like 4 to 5 hours of stuff out every week, so you fall behind once, and then you're basically... It's gonna take a while to catch up, and I just did not have the energy for it.
That's fair.
This new campaign, however, it's in a new setting, it's in a new world, you don't have to worry about any previous lore. In addition, there is a new GM. Brennan Lee Mulligan is GMing the game, which means that Matt Mercer, the forever GM, gets to play. He's been in, like, limited series and stuff. I don't think he's been a player in a long-term campaign like the one that I'm sure they're going to be playing. Or at least not that's been streamed, I should say. So I'm very excited for that. In addition, they are doing a West Marches style, so they will have a bunch of players and sort of mix and match the tables for who is playing at them. The way it's working with the 13 players that are there is that they will have the first, like, 4 episodes, I think it is. they're going to have sort of this introductory story. You know, they will have everybody, well, sometimes everybody, depending on where they fit in the story, they will move into the table. Some people will hop in, some people will leave. And then after the first few episodes, it'll be divided into 3 different tables, which will have their own ongoing stories within the shared world. And so far, I've only really seen the first episode because I'm not subscribed on Twitch or anything, so I have to wait until the episodes come out on YouTube. But it was just really cool. Honestly, everyone's characters are really cool. The game is really cool. Like, they're all sort of connected by this one central NPC. They're all, like, either friends or family or rivals to this person. So all the characters do have something that brings them together into the same space within the first episode. But the way it's structured, at least in that episode, is that it starts with some of the players at the table, like a couple players at the table, and then more come in, and then some leave as we go to different scenes and everything. We got a chance to see everybody's character at least once in that first episode. Although, and this is the difference between a show and a game, I would think, or like a home game, I guess, is that some people had to wait till like the last hour to actually get to the table. And that definitely would not fly with a home game. Like, I definitely would not want to do that. I mean, I might have the patience for it for a show, I don't know, but I don't think I would want to put a player through that. But if you're running a stream, if that's meant to be like a narrative show, I think everybody's sort of on the same page about, you know, the character will arrive when it is necessary for them to do so. It's more like an improv thing than a tabletop RPG thing, if that makes sense.
Well, it's more like they're putting on a play. Like, it's just a play with dice, to be fair. Like,
yeah, basically.
You know, when you're in like a play, sometimes you're only in like 1 or 2 scenes. So then, you know, you're just kind of stand by until you're needed back. So don't model your game off of this, please. Like, whatever you do, this is like the opposite. Solely for entertainment purposes. This sounds ridiculous if you had to tell your friends, okay, you got to go.
Yeah.
You're not in this scene, and everyone's like, what? Like,
yeah, as much as I like the new campaign, it's definitely not like, I mean, honestly, just look at the set that they play on. It is not a thing that appears in a normal game. Like, there's definitely ideas you can pull from this. Certainly when you have a large cast, you want something that's some sort of central theme or idea, or an NPC in this case, that brings them all together so they all have some sort of commonality between them. But yeah, no, don't expect to structure your game like a Critical Role session, especially this particular one, and have people wait like 2+ hours before they can say anything. But at the same time, like, when those characters came in, Ashley Johnson's character especially was just like a presence. She was only there for like, I don't know, half an hour, but she was just such a presence that I was like, who is this person that they don't want to mess with and they have already messed with?
Well, yeah, I mean, of course, because it's to be entertaining, right? So you're entertained when you watch it. You're like, oh yeah, this is nice. But like, I'm sure it was entertaining and fun for the people involved. But you know, this is their jobs for
also
the most
yes.
part, and that's just how it is, right? When you're at your job. But you know, if you're just trying to like have fun with your friends, don't do that. Just don't take away being like, we should try and replicate this.
Yeah, I mean, unless everybody's on the same page about it, unless everybody is like, I'm cool with waiting a while because we're doing a stream or some sort of like podcast or something like that, then yeah, like again, like there's certainly stuff in Critical Role that I don't think would be as fun in like a home game. But at the same time, I can tell that the people who are actually playing, like, they're enjoying what it is. It's just not the same as like playing at home.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty cool, I think. I think that if you actually wanted to replicate it, I mean, we've done it before where you just have, it's just West Marshes, right? So Calvin's doing it in his Lancer campaign. I've done it for the Path of Inion campaign, my Pathfinder campaign, where it's like, you know, you have groups of people and stuff happens, but you don't tell, like, unless you were in the session, like, you don't have to like repeat it to anybody. So, you know, there's like all these replicating like the idea of like, you are playing this character and your experience in the game is only because your character was there, right? Like, and you're hearing all these stories from the other players, characters' experiences, and then you're like, what? That happened? And then it's like, I love when people are like, not again, and then you're like, again? Like, this happened previously? Yeah, I can't wait for that one. That one's always the best feeling.
Yeah, that is honestly the sort of thing I'm looking forward to, like when the players split up into their individual groups, because the individual tables are smaller than the usual Critical Role tables, so that means there's a bit of wiggle room for people to show up at those tables. But at the same time, also, they're going to be doing stuff, and it's going to affect something else, and I really want to see the consequences of that. We haven't seen a ton of that yet, at least nothing that goes beyond, like, normal, a player did a thing and it affected the world sort of things. But yeah, I'm very curious where that's all going to go. And I really like all the new characters. I like Laura Bailey's character. She's playing, like, this actual 4-inch tall pixie, which is both very adorable and also had the most tragic introduction. Actually, her introduction, well, minor spoilers, but her introduction involves her character having to make some death saving throws, which, who knows how that could have gone. That's always a weird thing to me, is like, you guys paid for art. But there were other characters present, so she was able to be saved, but, it's just, I don't know. It was an interesting introduction to the character. It was very sad, and I hope you see more of that character. I mean, I'm sure we will. I haven't seen the second episode yet, but I think she's in, like, the thumbnail for it, so.
Well, I guess you'll see, Calvin.
Yeah, like, she had, like, a little bit of a scene. She was very sad because of some stuff that happened to that one NPC. I don't know. I've been off Critical Role for a while, just because, like, there was such a high volume of it that it was hard to catch up. So I'll see how long I stick with the new campaign. But yeah, I just really like it so far. I haven't seen a whole lot of Dimension 20 stuff, so I haven't seen a ton of Brennan as a GM. But I know he's one of the ones that people like love to watch, so yeah, I'm looking forward to all of that. That's just me gushing about Critical Role because it's it re-energizes certain creative batteries for me. But speaking of Critical Role, let's get to, I guess, the main thing for this episode is that I played a one-shot of Daggerheart, the new game by Darrington Press. Relatively new, I guess. I mean, it came out this year, so that counts as new. It was published by the same people behind Critical Role. It's not as rules light as I thought it was going to be going in, honestly, but it feels pretty flexible. It's got some interesting mechanics, and yeah, I just want to talk about the one-shot quick start game that I had played in over on the Untold Stories Project channel. That should also be available on YouTube, so if you're interested, I will put a link to that YouTube video below if people want to check it out. But the basic gist of the game is that our characters were hired by one of the other PCs. Essentially, we were hired to do a delivery. We had to take a box through a forest to a small settlement village in the forest because there was a certain NPC who needed that box. It was a very basic premise because it's meant to be like a quick one-shot session. I was playing a Qatari ranger. Qatari being like a catfolk ancestry, so I was trying to do the Khajiit voice from Skyrim. I don't know if it came across very well. But yeah, I was just basically playing an archer guy, as I'm used to doing. Getting into the game, and I'll just describe some plot. I don't want to get too far into plot details, because I don't want to like spoil the whole one-shot, but I'll give some notes as we go on. But getting into the game, we started off with a bit of exploration, and then we sort of ended up in an ambush, where we did some light combat. There was some stuff within combat that we had missed, I'll be honest, but it was our first time playing, so I think that's fair. Basically, the way combat works, or actually, you know what, I'm probably getting too high level. Let me get into the main mechanic here, because the way this game resolves dice rolls, or the way this game resolves conflicts or, moments of chance, is with what it calls duality dice. And that is basically, instead of rolling a d20, as you would in certain other games, you roll 2d12, and then you add your relevant ability score. However, with these 2d12, one of them is your hope die, and one of them is your fear die. And depending on which one is higher, then that determines the outcome of your roll. So you could roll high enough to succeed on a roll, and if your hope die is higher, then you've rolled with hope. Conversely, if your fear die is higher, then you've rolled with fear. You can succeed or fail with hope or with fear, in some situations, rolling with fear would be like, failing and rolling with fear would be like a critical fail in some situations, or succeeding and rolling with hope would be a critical success. But mostly what hope and fear do is that they are resources that you or the GM can spend. So if you roll with hope, then you add hope to your counter, and you can spend that for your abilities. In addition, if you roll with fear, then the GM gets a fear token, and they can use that for NPC abilities.
Interesting.
So I can go into more details with something I was doing later in the game, because I was kind of saving up all of my hope, because I had a cool ability, but it cost 3 hope to spend. It cost 3 hope to do, so I kind of didn't spend a whole lot. But yeah, I thought it was a pretty interesting mechanic. It's like it creates this like push and pull as you're rolling dice. Like you can be succeeding at something, but then you might also give the GM a currency to spend against you, and then you have to deal with the outcome of that. In addition, the way initiative works is it's more like Lancer or other games, where it's the players choose who goes and they do something, and then the GM is able to react to it depending on how much fear the GM wants to spend, because the GM can save up their fear as well.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the basics of it. So then we get into actual combat. There is one sort of thing in combat that stands out a bit for me that I've been just rolling back and forth in my head a bit. I mean, the rolling to attack, that's your basically, you roll your duality dice, you get your hope, your fear, whatever. With enemies, the GM is actually rolling a d20, and then they're just adding whatever the attack number is, and then trying to beat your evasion, which, that's your armor class, your evasion, whatever. It's the same term.
Right.
So the way damage works is it's essentially a 2-step process, I guess. The enemies have damage that they roll, like 3d4 or 1d6 plus 3 or that sort of thing. And then that is compared to your damage thresholds. So every character has 2 numbers for their damage threshold. So I'll go with my character as an example. So my character Varian, they had damage thresholds at 7 and 14. So any total damage roll below 7, I would mark off 1 HP. Any total damage rolls between 7 and 14, I would mark off 2 HP. And then any total damage rolls over 14, I would mark off 3 HP. So you're not getting damage directly from the total roll. You get that number, you fit it into your threshold, and then you check off your HP.
It's basically like a toughness check. People who've played like Warhammer, I mean, Warhammer is a little bit like yes or no, but this is more like yes, no, maybe. Like, right?
Like, how does it work in Warhammer? Like, I haven't played, so.
Oh, 40K. So like, I think I'm not sure about like the old world Warhammer, but like in 40K, like each unit has like a toughness value. So like in each weapon or attack has like a basically like a strength, right? Like a damage value. So you have to like roll and see like how much higher the toughness is versus that, and if you roll above it, then you do damage, and if you don't, then it's like the thing survives. So it's like a couple of layers, right? So then it's like you roll to hit, you roll to see if you do enough damage, and then the person gets like an armor save if it matters, and then the unit dies, right?
Okay. Yeah, I guess I can see. Yeah, it's kind of like that. Like, I can see why they would go with something like that, because it's like, a certain unit will do a certain amount of damage, but certain things might be more tough than that unit is capable of handling. And I think that's sort of what this thing is for, rather than it just having chunkier HP or whatever. It's just sort of better able at shrugging off damage that a lower level character might not be able to. I don't know, like, I think I might need a bit more time with it, because like, I can see the value of it, but I can also feel like it adds extra steps to receiving damage. Because it's not like, like a damage roll and then like an attack roll and then a damage roll or something, or an attack roll and a toughness roll or something. It's like damage is 2 steps.
Well, I would say what it actually is doing is having its cake and eat it too, right? Where it's like, you don't have to have big health pools and big damage dice, right? You get to have a small health pool that you have to track, but then also still be able to roll the big dice, right? Which is like the trade-off when you're trying to like simplify like an HP system, where it's like the feel of something being very powerful but only doing like 3 damage, it's kind of hard for some people to get behind. But now, the reasons why you want a lower like HP pool or like that kind of management is because the numbers are easier to work with. But rolling big high numbers is good dopamine. So like
True.
it's also still fun. I think that like it's a little bit, I don't know, I have to try out the system myself. It feels a little bit like unelegant, right? Where it's like we already are doing so many rolls and then you roll the damage too, and then you're comparing another chart, right? Because it's like a value and another value. But like, I don't know, I think that every system has its own feel, and people design it to be like, novel and everything like that as well, right? So I guess you would have to, I guess my feelings, your feelings on it, I'm assuming is like we have to see a little bit more if it was better or not.
Yeah, but pretty much. I think it's just because this is my first interaction with it that I'm like, I get it, but it's also an extra step, so I have to play with it a bit more to see. Because, when you're playing a game for the first time, there's always going to be some stutters, so, like, I can't really say how much it slows the game down when everybody is learning the game, because it's going to be slow regardless. Yeah, I think that was sort of the thing that stood out the most to me was the damage situation, but the thing I liked the most was definitely the duality dice. I really liked just having that resource pool that we're building as we go along. Because as a player, you can spend hope for things like you can use it to help an ally, for example. So even if it's not your turn, you're still on deck because if you have a resource you can spend, you can still help out your whole team. But I just really liked having this thing that you could spend on different abilities. We didn't really get to do much character creation because we just had some one-shot characters. So I don't know a whole lot about how that particular system works. I know the game has like different cards you can use, and I guess they will have different like ancestries and backgrounds and classes and things like that. The classes, from what I understand, are made up of different domains, which are like different categories of abilities, I guess. So for my character, for example, they have an ability that gives them a bonus to their evasion, and another one that gives them basically a entanglement spell, but that does some extra damage. Certain spells as well, or certain actions, you can spend hope to make them a bit more effective. So like with that entanglement spell, I could spend hope and I can restrain an extra target. But yeah, as we played through that forest ambush, we arrived in the town, we got to meet up with some of the NPCs as we're trying to find the person we're making this delivery to. It was pretty fun just like hanging out in that forest town and meeting these random characters. I had a lot of fun with our GM. I don't know if she's going to be listening to this, so I'll just mention, I'll give her a compliment behind her back. I had a lot of fun in that game, especially after reading through the quick start. Like I read through it after we played, and I saw like all the extra details and everything that the GM had been adding, and yeah, it was just a lot of fun, and I hope she runs more stuff. But other than that, we got into the last combat, which was more of a holdout scenario. So as we're going through, we essentially had a timer that we had to deal with. The GM would have a D8, and it would tick down every time we took out an enemy, and our goal was to get that to tick down before the enemies succeeded in getting to the person we're trying to protect. So we're playing through that, and this is where I saved up for, look, I'm just going to talk about the cool thing I did for a minute, because I thought it was cool. Essentially, I saved up all of my hope at that point. You can carry a maximum of 6 hope, from what I understood of the game, or at least from what I understood of the character sheet. And I had a thing that lets me spend hope to do an additional attack with a weapon against 2 additional adversaries. Like, I keep the same attack roll, but I can apply it to 2 more enemies. And then I had something where if I take a stress, which is like another state of damage, basically. Instead of physical damage, it's more like mental damage. But I had a thing where if I take on stress, then I increase the amount of damage that I do. So I basically just spent all of my hope and marked a bunch of stress, and then I did a ton of damage to multiple enemies on my turns. So I was doing pretty well. We were fighting like skeletons and wraiths, and the wraiths had resistance to physical damage. Like our characters were leaning mostly into physical damage. At least 2 out of 3 of the characters were physical damage. So the wraiths were a bit of trouble. But I was blasting skeletons and I felt cool. And I think that's the main thing of the game, is feeling cool. But overall, yeah, I really enjoyed the game. I think it was a lot of fun. I really want to get more into these mechanics. Like, that moment when something clicks, when you figure something out. I definitely felt that in that last combat scenario. So yeah, hopefully there's a chance to play more of this, because I really want to see how character creation works as well.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you had a good time, man. I think when I was kind of like initially hearing about that game, I was kind of like, as weird as this sounds, I was like, I don't know. Yeah, it just felt, I think it was the hope and fear thing. That mechanic specifically, which is like super core to the experience, I was bounced right off. I was like, I don't know, man. It feels wild that you're asking me to have 2 different colored dice. I was like,
I mean, to be fair, who doesn't?
yeah, I know. But I was like, ew. Like, no, thank you.
It does suggest that you can roll the same d12 2 times, just have one as your hope and one as your fear roll, but like, if you're deep enough into tabletop RPGs that you are playing Daggerheart, I don't know who's playing Daggerheart before they have a dice collection. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, I mean, maybe. I mean, I think that whatever game you start with that gets you into the hobby, that's good. I'm glad. I'm happy that you found that game. I bet it's probably pretty popular with,
oh, yeah.
Right, so I'm sure there's a lot of people's first times arounds, you know what I mean? Like,
there was a joke, because we were talking about Critical Role. There was a joke in the first episode, because they do like little ad skits before the show, like for different sponsors or whatever, and there was one line in it where Sam Riegel, he was just like, oh, we're not playing Daggerheart? That seems like a weird business decision. That was kind of the commentary before this campaign, because they're playing D&D again, but everyone assumed they'd be playing Daggerheart. I don't know, it was just a funny little lampshade to hang on that.
I mean, to be fair, it is a weird business decision. Like,
I think it has to do with like people being used to it and the GM being used to it, and the fact that when they planned the campaign, Daggerheart wasn't even like published.
No, I mean, obviously I think also too, just that it would feel a little bit like one big ad.
Oh, yeah.
I have to be honest with you. Right? It would just be like one big ad of like, hey, look at this cool game that we made. Please look at it. It's important, right? But no, I think a lot more people, again, D&D is the premium brand of TTRPGs out there. It's the Kleenex of TTRPGs. This is where, the easiest way to talk to people who aren't in the hobby, being like, oh, what is this? It's like, oh, it's D&D, but right, like,
right.
I think that it's fine and it's awesome, and I hope that you play more Daggerheart in the future. Yeah,
I really do hope we get to play more of it. I know our GM is waiting on a delivery of the book, so I don't know. When you get the book, run more of this game. If you're listening, when you get the book, run more of this game, because I definitely want to play more of this game. I think we tangented when you were talking about how you felt about the hope and fear mechanics. I don't know if you finished your thought on that, because I kind of tangented into that other thing.
Well, it's specifically the fact that like you have to roll the dice, and then you have to be like, oh, I got a hope, but like, oh, I also got a fear or whatever, and then you have to tell the GM that. It's just like an extra step, and then you roll for damage on top of that. It's just like, I don't know. How many pieces of information do we have to trade to resolve an action, right?
Right.
At least like from working on like the Project Versus game, it's like the conversation is like, I'm going to attack you with this, and then the other person's like, okay, I'm going to defend myself XYZ, right? And then everyone rolls or doesn't roll, and then you roll damage, and then that's it, right?
Right.
But this one, it's like there's a lot of things you like every time you interact, like the actual value of things that change is like a lot more involved, because I'm assuming that like there's other things that just give you hope, or like you have to spend hope, and like you have to do all that. You see how much you generate, and then it's kind of like, I know it makes it to be like a little bit like swingy, as in like you don't know like if you're just gonna fuel the GM's nonsense because you rolled a bunch of fear, but which is kind of cool, but it just feels like a little cumbersome, because it's like, at least for the way that I've designed Project Versus, it's like the defender gets to choose the outcome, right? So you already know what's going to happen to some extent, or at least you have like an idea of what you're risking on, right? But when you're just doing any roll, right, you could be generating lots of hope and you snowball, or you could be generating lots of fear and then you're screwed, I'm assuming. I mean, you're probably is balanced towards the PCs. Like it's a, you know, this game is like a modern game, so it's like designed for the players to win. But it's kind of just like, you know, you don't really know what's going to happen. And I guess that's the thing for people, but I'm just like not into it. I don't know. When I saw it, I was like, eh. The name Daggerheart 2, I was like, eh. Like, I don't know. I feel like I should like this game because everyone's like, this is cool. And I'm like, eh.
I mean, to be fair, there's a lot of new games out. We still haven't talked about Draw Steel, and it's been like a month.
Oh my god. Yeah, I know. I'm just like, I'm also met on Draw Steel. It's like cool. And like, I feel like I kind of want to run it, but also I just don't want to because it's so much. It's so much.
Yeah, I know Draw Steel, I think it's meant to be more of that tactical combat sort of game.
Yeah, it is. And like, I know that it's honestly, it's probably easy to run. Like, from what I understand of the game, it just whatever's on the paper, you do it. Like, you press your little paper action button and you do the thing. And no matter what you do, you always are, like, the game state is going towards its final conclusion. Like, there's no missed rolls. There's no, like, I didn't do anything on my turn. It's always like things are proceeding closer and closer to the end, right? Like, no matter what, it's just like, how cool of a job is this happening, right? Because everybody wants to hit and do all this cool stuff and be challenged, but you know, if things aren't progressing, that also sucks, and nobody likes that.
Right. Yeah, that's fair. I don't know. I haven't read a whole lot of Draw Steel, to be honest. I've read a little bit of it, some class stuff mostly, but yeah, that's still a future episode that we have to do.
Yeah, and I know it's weird, but it's definitely a Matt Colville game. Like, it's a Matt Colville-ass game with all the weird stuff that makes that dude, and like his ideas of like what you know, D&D is, right? Like the fantasy genre, which it's awesome. It's awesome. I think there's like lots of cool stuff in there. There's lots of cool enemies. I mean, like, I don't think that he puts a bad product out. It's just that, like, I guess like I'm in like a space of the hobby where I kind of want something easy to pick up and play, but like not to the point where it's like kind of like too loose and too narrative, but just like simpler. Is that like weird? Like, it's just kind of like, you know, it's like simple to kind of just like do a thing and feel cool about it, which maybe it's in there with Draw Steel, and I haven't like sat down with it enough. But the fact is that I have to sit down with something and figure it out is kind of a hurdle, to be fair.
So like simple enough that you don't have to spend too much time figuring out the basic mechanics, but not so simple that you have to spend each roll figuring out like what should happen next. Like, it gives you some guidance as to what happens next and after you make a roll or take a chance on something.
Yeah, basically it's like, it's more like even just give me like a character game plan that I can just be like, oh, this is how this works. And it's like, you just kind of roll and do things. But you still get to have that little bit of like choice where it's like your tactical gameplay is going on. But it's not just like overwhelming with stuff to make decisions for, right? The game is so, like, the book is so thick with choices, right? You have a lot of choices, and I kind of want a game with minimal choices. Is that weird? Where it's like you're playing this dude, and that's it, right? This is what he can do. Go have fun.
Right.
Yeah, I don't think I want to craft a dude and then go on a long quest to go do whatever. I kind of want to just show up and muck around with the boys for a little bit. That's where I'm at with the hobby.
I feel like there's probably a game out there that fits that. I can't think of something off the top of my head, but at least from what I have specifically played, I get where you're coming from.
No, it's basically Mythical Bastion Land is the game that's for me. I have not picked it up yet, but I definitely will.
Well, if you do, then that's another episode.
Oh yeah, I know. we'll yeah. If I pick it up, we'll take a look at it. I already think Quint's Quest already did a pretty good review of Mythical Bastion Land, and I was like, this is it. I'm pretty sure. But it's also, again, it's cool, but it's it's cool in an idea, but it's too loosey goosey in its conflict resolution and story driven progression. Like it's like too much fun and you're too much like in the ether and kind of mucking about. But it's easy to jump into because you don't have to do a lot. You just kind of rolls on some tables and you got like a silly little guy. You take your silly little guy on adventures and then he's probably gonna die, and like that's okay. Like
well, if we talk about that game in the future, then that'll be another possible thing to talk about. I have not heard of Mythic Bastion Land before this, so I'm gonna go look it up and see what it's about.
Yeah, it's cool. You play a bunch of silly knights to go on silly knight quests. There's like a shit ton of them, and they're all weird. And the things that you do are weird. Like example, you have to convince the sun to go back to do its job as a medieval knight guy. I don't know how you do that, but the game also doesn't know how you do that, and you just have to figure it out with your friends and go have some fun. Like,
so you're like a literal like mythical character. Well, normal guy, but also dealing with mythical level threats or stories or whatever.
Yeah, but like you play as like a specific knight, and like you have like okay, maybe I'll pick up the book and we'll do like a whole like
okay.
episode. This is like a mini breakdown.
Before we tangent.
So you have like yeah. So like as a GM, you build a map, and then the players roll up a knight. Right, you roll up their skills, you just roll a knight, and you have a bunch of, I don't even know if they're powers, but like one dude's like the pigeon knight, so you get to like talk to pigeons, like that's your power. Right? And it's up to you to figure out how that works. And then you go on these quests, and it's like the GM like picks from like a bunch of quests or rolls up a bunch of quests, but they don't tell you where they are on the map. It's a hex crawl, and then you basically just go hex by hex, bumbling into the quests. And then the first time you bumble into a quest, there's like different events that go along with it, and they like basically range in like intensity. So like by the time like the 6th time you run into that quest or you enter that quest or something happens, the quest gets worse. And they're also kind of crazy too. Like they're like fairy tale. Like you're literally like playing through like Charlemagne or something, right? Like it's, and like your knights, and there's lots of like player agency. It's like you keep playing until you're exhausted, like in the character, because your stats get lowered every time like stuff happens, and eventually like catastrophe happens, and then you die, or like you're not, or like you could also at the end of each session you choose how much time passes, like the table, like the players choose how much time passes, and it could be like a day, a week, 80 years. So like sometimes you're playing your descendants if you wanted to, like you can like build castles and like be the king or whatever. It's just like a lot, but like in like a very small, concise package. Like putting together a character is really easy. Running the game is probably pretty easy in terms of just like doing it, but like the only daunting thing is that because there's no guardrails in terms of specifics of how to resolve the main issues in the world, you kind of are just kind of doing your own thing. So like as like a GM, you kind of have to like feel confident in the things that you are telling these people, right? It's really a lot of smoke and mirrors if you don't got nothing planned. Like, which the book like does, because it does this cool thing where like on each page there's like a random bunch of words that you can draw from if you're just kind of going off of the cuff. So it's like the book is designed extremely well. Everything fits on like one page for the most part. Like the rule book, like the actual rule section is super small, and like it looks awesome. And it's like I definitely would like to check out this game. I don't know if I'll run it. I might try it, but like it feels pretty good. It feels like maybe something I could goof around with.
I mean, it kind of sounds like you're into it, Ramon, so I think you're gonna have to do that.
Yeah, probably. Okay.
Add it to the list.
Yeah, just put it on the list of things I gotta try. I gotta run. But yeah, I guess that's my end of my ramble about the TTRPG experience of Ramon in 2025.
I mean, to be fair, you're also a very busy person.
Yeah. I'm also just trying to write my own stuff too. I think that's the thing too, right? Like if I definitely need to play more games so I can like get more inspired to put it into my own game. But also I feel like I don't even play my own games that much. So it's like,
yeah,
it's the weird part about designing something, I guess.
I think that is going to be it for this episode, because we ran a bit longer than I think we intended to. I mean, I covered everything I wanted to talk about. I talked about a whole bunch of things. I'm really excited for that site update. Ramon, anything else before we head into the outro?
No, I didn't mean to ramble for that long, but I guess it's been a while.
It has been a while. You gotta let it out. That's what this podcast is for. We're both secretly really chatty people. I mean, not so secretly, to be honest. We're at, 231 episodes?
Yeah, we have a lot of hours of us yapping.
All right, folks. Thanks so much for hanging out. If you're listening to us, check us out on, YouTube and Spotify and Apple and Amazon and all the corporations and platforms that we're on. If you do have other RPGs you're interested in, like Daggerheart or Draw Steel or Mythic Bastionland or anything else that you want to talk about, drop a comment below on YouTube or on Spotify or on any platform that allows comments. Check us out at winwithdice.ca, where you can see a preview of Ramon's game. If you are on YouTube, please check out the description below, where there's links to everything we've talked about, as well as a bunch of links to Lancer RPG writers and creators, and links to other RPGs like Soar and Dawn and everything else that we've talked about before. Ramon, you did bring up the topic, but you do have a couple of games you're working on.
Yeah, I'm working on a card-based TTRPG that involves mechs and lasers and guns and politics, probably. It's a mechanized body. I am working on that with Trey, aka NHP Shaka. It's a cool game. You pilot a mech with your deck of cool maneuvers, and it's super fun. It's super awesome. Join the Discord. As well as I'm working on Project Versus, which is my fighting game inspired TTRPG, where I implement a lot of the things that I enjoy recently in 2025. Where you call out attack names. It's a snappy, fun combat of like dodging, blocking, counterattacking, that kind of stuff. It really feels like a every moment to moment clash of fists matter in the fight. Go check those out.
Indeed. And as I said, you can check out winwithdice.ca to see more Project Versus, as well as everything else that we talk about here. There's all of our previous episodes. If you're interested in a specific topic, you can go to the website and sort for that. But that's going to do it for this episode. For all of our GMs and players out there who are rolling with hope or rolling with fear, just remember to keep on winning with dice. And we'll see you next time.
Bye.